โอเคครับ
Okay, welcome students to the autumn 2021 class, Big Data and Data Analytics. So this is the second year that this course is offered at Basai. I think you guys are the third batch, if I'm not mistaken, right? Second batch or third batch at Basai? Third batch, I think. Okay. So, my name is Dr. Poonjai Naksakul, and your TA here is Pinat Tongkan Kalakan. Okay, Nat said, raise your hand or okay, so Pinat. Pinat has been with me for quite a long time actually. When I was a first senior vice president at Siam Commercial Bank, I was the head of quantitative models and enterprise analytics. Pinat actually was originally from the bank's IT, and I gave sort of like an in-house talk on what quantitative modeling and machine learning technologies is all about. This was many years back, and Pinat Tongkan, who was already very interested in AI as far back as his undergraduate years, immediately applied to be part of my team. And so when I left, I started forming my own private consultancy, data science consultancy, and Pinat left to pursue a Ph.D. program. He wanted to go on doctorate school, but he was kind of like stalled by the COVID pandemic, so he can't go anywhere. So I took him on to my consultancy projects and also my teaching. So he's been a very strong TA. So this is who he is. Right. Now I'm supposed to give you guys a little bit of my start off with a bit of my personal history. I guess my professional history is I guess it could be interesting, but to me it's not that interesting. What is interesting really is my educational history when I was about your age. Okay, so I'm going to talk about that, but let me see. So you guys can see my screen one, right? So you see this Explorer, I think you guys see it. Yeah. All right. Okay. So I'm just gonna not here, you see that, right? Just by the way, because it's very hard to get interaction with you guys or interactive response. Whenever I say something and I ask a question, you don't have to unmute your phone or anything, just kind of nod, So give a generous nod or raise your hand or something, so I know that you guys are alive and on the same page. Okay, I'll just put this thing up real quick. This is sort of like my sort of like professional history. But anyway, what I wanted to tell you more than this was about my undergraduate years, which is where I think you guys are. I actually studied physics and economics. It was a double major. Okay, it was a double major. It was at Case Western Reserve University. And in a way, that university, and like many universities in the United States, but not all, it had what's called a liberal arts tradition. What that means is that the idea of undergraduate education is to build a complete intellectual, articulate, literate citizen. Okay, so that really is not about science or technology on the one hand, or about arts and humanities, but actually it's always School of Art and Science. Okay, so the pedagogical educational model that the paradigm that this university subscribed to was liberal arts education. So to be a complete educated citizen, you have to be well versed in both arts and science. Okay? And I think that's what we probably used to have in Thailand as well. You guys don't know this, but the liberal arts department, Aksarn Sat, Chulalongkorn University, at one time, that was where you study physics and math, right? Because liberal arts covers arts and science and physics and math and all sorts of stuff. But as the technology sort of like grew and you need to do dedicated research, you start to have a dedicated science department. And so that was taken out of Aksarn Sat, which is fine, which is good, which is what should have happened because of the specialization. Unfortunately, because students are registered by department, what it means is that you end up studying just what is taught at your department. And this has been, you know, the way July has operated for the past, God knows, 20, 30 years. Okay. So if you're in engineering school, aside from some very small selection of general education, you would basically be taking lectures from engineering department. So you know, if you belong to this department, you study just that the subject offered in that department. So that's sort of like the model that, in a way, has positive, but it also has negative in that, you know, you sort of like pigeonhole people into the artsy type or the technical types and end up not being able to communicate with one another, right? Scientists can't speak normal language to the public, and people in the public are not well versed at all in the basic of science and technologies. Okay, so anyway, so that's the sort of thing that the spirit of Basai was founded. That's, you know, like you said, like you know, it's a school of integrated innovation, and integrated innovation is driven by those who are well versed on both sides. Okay, so that's the thesis, the model of this institution is that, you know, you need really that liberal arts core, that science and arts together to have or to cultivate a genuinely innovative mindset. That's the thinking. And part of that is the understanding. Okay, it's a little bit of a social contract. It's the understanding that you learn the fundamental, or you learn the knowledge that makes you able to learn and relearn and become a lifelong learner. So you're not stuck to a particular skill set. The social contract is that you may not be able to, you know, operate an industrial machine the day you graduate from school, but you will never become obsolete. Because as technology changes, as social paradigm shift and so forth, social dynamics has different phenomena, globalization, digitalization, and all that, you can keep up because you're not stuck to a technical training per se. Okay? And the way I say it is that, you know, I don't want Basai graduates to be able to work on day one. In fact, they can be useless on day one after they graduate. The point is that we would prefer someone like that to technical graduates who are able to work immediately on day one upon graduation, but in 2 years' time become absolutely obsolete. You know, gets outpaced by technology, gets outpaced by the social phenomenon and so forth. So that's what Basai is trying to do. And part of that is the spirit of learning. So the idea is you learn what you would like to learn, not what you think is going to guarantee you a job. Okay. I happen to study physics and economics. Well, first of all, because when I was a kid, we used to have you know, the Thai national radio at 8 o'clock in the morning. And very often you hear news like physicists discovered this, discovered that. So, you know, to me, physicists were like heroes. So that was like my childhood impression. But more importantly, when I was in high school, this was in the United States, I went to a prep school, what's called a prep school, like Dome kind of thing, but really ran by Jesuits. And my aunt, my father's friend, lived in the same city. So on weekends and stuff, I would go spend the weekend with her. And she was a publication director in the physics department of Washington University. So I ended up hanging around physics department library. I would do my homework there, I do my reading there, and so forth. So when I got bored, I just walked around the library, the physics library, and I just picked up books at random. And it was completely incomprehensible to me. So that immediately got me to thinking it was a book written by human beings, presumably intended for human beings to read. But the fact that I couldn't comprehend it meant that this is meant to be understood. I just didn't have the capacity to understand. So my instinct was not to put the book down because I couldn't understand it. My instinct was to say, well, wouldn't it be cool to study physics so you can understand all this? Right? And so that was my motivation. And my motivation for studying economics, funny enough, I was already in college. By the way, in liberal arts school, you have to declare your major to your junior year, which is a little bit like what you have here. I just happened to run into some old textbook in economics from, sort of like a Talat Nat, flea market. And I kind of read an introduction chapter and I was impressed. I kind of liked the idea. I also studied philosophy and so forth, and I came very close to majoring in philosophy. But of course, I came back to Thailand on summer and I started to read Buddhism, and I found that it was a lot more, it was a lot deeper than Western philosophy. So I ended up studying on this physics and economics. And I did my master in operations research. And again, the interesting thing was, I didn't know what operations research was. It just happened that my university, during the winter months, undergraduates have to vacate their dormitories. So during the winter, presumably, they'll go home to their states, out-of-state students. But of course, I couldn't go home to Thailand, it's quite expensive. So I would have to vacate to go to graduate dorm. And just 2 doors down, there was some guy from Argentina who came all the way to study operations research. So I was intrigued by, why would this guy come all the way from Argentina? I think the next letter Argentina. So I started to read up on what operations research was, understood that it has a tradition dating back to World War II, when mathematicians, physicists, engineers got together to solve challenges posed by wartime Britain. One problem was you have to place the radar station to detect the incoming enemy fighters. Where would you place it to maximize coverage? So it became a mathematical problem, mathematical optimization. So I studied that. For my master. Now, during the master, there's a lot of class about optimization. Tends to begin the class with assuming that you are searching over a convex space. You don't have to understand what that means, but just there's a lot of assumption. So I thought to myself, what if you can't assume? What if you want to apply mathematics to a problem that's a little bit more flexible, more not so well formed, not so rigorous? So I gravitated toward back then what was called neural network research. And just by my fortune, I went to get coffee. I like coffee at MBA school. So I went to get MBA coffee from the coffee shop, and an older gentleman dropped the book. So, I picked it up because, I didn't want him to have to kneel down. So I just picked it up, politely handed it to him. And I noticed the book was about neural network and pattern recognition. So I asked the gentleman, said, oh, this is an interesting area. I'm interested in this area. Are you interested in that area as well? That's why you're reading this book. So this gentleman just kindly pointed to the name of the author of the book and said, that's me. So I ended up studying neural network under him, under his tutelage Professor Johan Pao, and I'm grateful to this day. And so when the Bank of Thailand gave me a scholarship and I went to Imperial College, that was my idea, okay? And there I wanted to use neural network, but then I started to do what's called, I guess, internship at a bank. This was called Chemical Bank. I don't know if you know, but Chemical Bank was a very big bank in foreign exchange, and it merged with Chase Manhattan. In fact, it was bigger than Chase Manhattan. But once they merged, they kept the Chase Manhattan name, and then they merged into JP Morgan. Anyway, I was there as part of their quantitative research and trading team. Okay? And so I was really intended on applying neural network. This is something that you're going to learn in this course. Well, I got some model from my elder colleagues from Imperial College. He was like 2-3 years my senior, so he started his Ph.D. earlier. And I got his machine and this neural network model, and I applied to financial data, and it got something like 97% accuracy. Okay, it was 90%. So I thought, wow, this is going to impress a lot of people. So I showed it to Christian Denise, who was vice president, head of the quantitative research trading. And instead of being impressed, he asked me what data set I was using, and I was using price level. And he said, it's kind of nice, 97 accuracy. But it turns out that they were trading on a high frequency basis. High frequency trading means you don't just buy today and sell in 3 months time. You can buy today and sell in 5 minutes. Okay, because they were the market maker. Okay, they were active in FX, and they were trading in a very tight margin. What's called bid-ask spread. It turns out that 3% error in the price level was bigger than the bid-ask spread. So even though it sounded, very nice as an academic exercise to get something like 97% accuracy, it was completely useless as an algorithmic trading tool. Yeah, because it couldn't tell you anything. It's sort of like bigger than the bid-ask spread. So I thought, well, instead of trying to learn the FX market and optimize your trading, why not optimize the trading rule directly? So because the optimization problem is not well formed, I went to another aspect of what's called computational intelligence, namely sort of like simulated optimization. This is called evolutionary optimization. It's like in evolution, right? You have species, and species compete. Species that do well survive, species that don't do well die. So I simulate that like in a game, except doing well in my case meant trading FX, dollar yen, sterling yen, or something like that. Okay, back then we had Deutschmark. Okay, so you would have population of breeding rules that are breeding, and the better rules stay, and the bad rules die. The good rules, the rules that trade profitably, recombine and generate new rules that are presumably better and better and better. So with that, I sought my supervisor, Professor Antonia Jones, who has already passed away, but I remember her fondly. And I also have Professor Rustam, who's my second advisor. But she was my primary advisor, and she was a guru in what's called genetic algorithm. So the long and short of all this is that it's a very fluid thing. Okay? It's a very fluid thing. You guys, when you were in high school selecting, you probably had discussion with your mom and your dad, what major or what school to go to, and that presumably was to set you on a path of a career. Well, in my case, the reason that I am able to keep up with basically frontier technology today is because I always pursue fundamental knowledge for its own sake, because it's fun. Okay, I never had a thought that I would have to learn this because I needed a job. Okay, my father famously, by the way, he passed away last year. My father was a career Navy man, so very, practical person. His Ph.D. was in electrical engineering. He was the first guess, Thai person who leads surface-to-surface missile successfully, successful missile program for the Royal Thai Navy. So he's a very practical man. But he told me when I was an undergraduate, if you like philosophy, major in philosophy, don't worry about getting a job. He literally said that to me. Okay, it was I myself was the one who decided against studying philosophy, mostly Western philosophy, because I thought it was a little bit shallow. So like shooting fish in a barrel, when you make an assumption and you make deduction within that. So anyway, I was the one who stopped myself from majoring in philosophy, not my dad. My dad said, major in philosophy if you like, don't worry about getting a job. So I don't know if the whole story here, means anything to you, but what I like you to get the impression is that don't think you know what it means to have a practical education. Okay? Practical education in most people's mind means technical training, something that would allow you to be able to work on day one. And I guarantee you, when I was, part of SCB, I saw recruitment, I oversaw recruitment of both types. People who are interested in fundamental knowledge and people who came from quote unquote data science school and can write a machine learning algorithm the day we onboard them, okay? So they come in the morning and in the afternoon, they can probably write a code already. Well, those people who are quote unquote practical, they can probably start working right away. But in 2 years' time, these people are useless because they don't grow with the evolving technology, okay? Whereas people who came from, say, applied math, okay, didn't know anything about finance, also didn't know anything about machine learning, but had the fundamental wherewithal to pick up new knowledge, new piece of technology, new theory. Those guys kept growing and they kept learning, and they can model liquidity, they can model risk, they can all kind of stuff better than people who have spent years as financial analysts. So I think, with that in mind, that's kind of my not volunteering, my devoting myself to this Barside program. I want to see that kind of graduates, okay? Students who don't ask their lecturer, sir, teacher, when am I going to use this? Or is this going to be useful for my job? Okay? If you have that kind of question in your mind, you probably don't belong here and you're probably not going to enjoy it. Yeah? But if you have an inquisitive mind and you want to learn, okay, you'll find out that you will become very practical. There is a good saying by an educator, an American educator, who said, there is nothing as practical as a good theory. Okay? Because if all you know is practical knowledge, you can just do one job. But if you have a good fundamental theoretical understanding, you can keep yourself updated regardless of how technology moves on. So that's the tone that I want to set. It's very important for me to establish this in the first class. Okay? So if you are of the mind that you just want to learn specific data analytics techniques so that you can impress your employers by being able to produce a code the minute they hire you, you probably don't really, you're probably not going to enjoy this class very much. Okay. But if you have an inquisitive mind, you want to know what data analytics fundamentally is, the mathematics behind it, the computational pipeline necessary to implement it, see how it works, see how it applies to a diverse area of application, see how people came onto data science solution from various perspectives, medical, biomedical, industrial, energy sector, that sort of stuff. I think you would probably enjoy this class quite a bit. Having said that, Teaching. I've been teaching since I was a student. You know, I taught tutorials. So when I was, you know, older student, I taught younger students. It's always been an enjoyable thing for me to do. But teaching on Zoom has not been that enjoyable. Okay, so frankly speaking, I can't quite get into the rhythm of talking to a screen. So anyway, so it would be good if you guys you know, play your part a little bit, make the class interactive. Now I'm not going to be monitoring your screens, so if you have questions and you raise your hand, whatever, your TA will notify you. Or you know, you can just unmute your phone and interrupt me anytime. Okay, but again, your TA is going to monitor your videos and whatnot, and but I'm going to focus on, I guess, the slides or whatever, the lecture. Okay, so that's that. That's that. Okay, so let's see. What have I got on the screen? Oh, it's still my bio page, right? So I'm going to go to this curriculum syllabus. Now, the syllabus is close to what we had last year, but an older version would have what's called reinforcement learning. I've decided to eliminate it from the curriculum, again, because there's not much time to it, and there are other opportunities for you guys to learn reinforcement learning. So I adjusted slightly. But let's look. Now, you can see my screen, right? Am I still sharing the screen, correct? Yeah, I'm still sharing the screen, and you're still seeing this PDF, correct?
PDF, yes.
Yeah. So anyway, so I want you know, behavioral objective. This is, you know, something that put a lot of thought into. You guys might want to read a little bit. I do want to have, you know, the learning outcome is I want you to have well-rounded knowledge, but you also have in-depth. Okay. So it's sort of like what Ajahn Warasap, okay, who he likens it to a comb paradigm. You know, you can have a broad understanding, you have in-depth understanding, you can have a comb, which is sort of like this. So you have a broad understanding, but in certain area, not all area. Okay, so it's kind of a broken comb model of education. And that's exactly what I want you to have. Okay, I want you to be able to put yourself in the minds of professional data scientists. Okay, and you have a task of prototyping, of formulating an approach, and it's something that you will get a flavor of, but you probably want, you know, have experience. That experience is something that is nothing that you can pick up in school. Okay, so that's where maybe your practical year, the say junior, senior year comes in. But you need to understand the fundamental. Okay, and the fundamental of data analytics. Okay, well, basically you need two things, right? You need the model, the analytical model, to do the analysis, and you need the computer to implement all of this and present result and show graph, visualize, and so forth. The model will be based mostly on two classes of tools. One is statistical model or statistical method, and the other one is based on mostly machine learning algorithm. I'm going to focus a lot more on that, presumably because, well, there's two reasons for this. One, statistical method is also taught as a basic knowledge. You should have learned very well in year one. Number two, for the sort of data we work with, sometimes statistical assumptions don't fit. And so you cannot apply statistical model. Now, whenever you can apply a statistical model, you'll be silly to apply machine learning model. Okay? The point is not to go for machine learning technique because you like it, it's fancy, it's cool and all that. No, you actually go to machine learning techniques because you have to. Because the data that you're working with do not fit classical statistical assumption. They don't have this nice, bell shape and that sort of thing. So when you deal with difficult data that's irregular, they don't have this normal distribution to assume, then you have to work with things like machine learning. Okay? So those are the tools. And in terms of computer programming, I'll talk to you a little bit, but you guys will have installed, presumably by now, Mathematica. Now, there are two platforms that I use in my professional life. One is Mathematica, one is Python. Python is what I ended up using at the end of project, always, because when you want to implement it with the, within the overall IT architecture, you need that. Okay, so to connect the data and run it, and it's very, very convenient to do that. But for prototyping, for high-level understanding, high-level thinking, high-level approach formation, I start with Mathematica. And so I think this is where you should start. Some of you will go on to be applied digital intelligence, so that you will have to beef up your Python programming, because that's how you basically communicate, basically how you interact your algorithm or software with the outside world. But for those of you who are also not going to be, who are in this class but not pursuing applied digital intelligence, but going to sustainability, smart cities, and healthcare, health science, Mathematica is a very powerful idea prototyping tools. It's also the most mathematically powerful programming platform on earth. Okay, but that's not why I'm using it here. That's not why I'm using it here. So you would presumably have experience with coding, complete data analytics, pipeline. The reason we use the word pipeline is you can think of it as a pipe, right? Starting from data at the one end, raw data, very raw data, all the way to finished analysis at the other, with algorithm and stuff all in between. Okay, this one I put in as a desired learning outcome or behavioral outcome, that you work in an agile project environment. Agile project environment is a sort of very fluid way of doing project. And for our purpose, it's good enough for you to understand that we are working things by successive sequences of prototypes. So you prototype something that works, but very simplistic, and then you start to add complication, realism, and so forth. So you have a sequence of prototypes that evolve and evolve into cycles, into a finished product. That's all I say. But do read up on what agile project management is. Now, basically, this is the sort of type, the class schedule. Oh, sorry, I don't have the dates here, but yeah, I can have the dates here. You have to fill in the dates. Sorry. I think you have another version that has the dates, but I made an adjustment to this. So basically, today we're going to talk a little bit about what it means to deal with data, the science of data, big data or not big data. Okay. We're going to go into a visual analytics. Okay. I'm going to touch up a little bit on probabilistic model statistical inference, because I think from my experience, you didn't have enough background beefed up in your year one, students. Likewise with linear algebra and calculus. So these two things are sort of like fundamental. Yeah. And if I had it my way, you have a whole course in this, and maybe one in here and one in here. So maybe you have 3 classes. But as it turns out, because of the design of the curriculum as it stands, 1, 2, 3, 4, all these 4 areas sort of like are covered by one course in the year 1. So that's a little bit unfortunate, but okay, we'll see. Now, as we move along, okay, basically you see that, the visual analytics is something that you can learn and pick up and fine tune on your own. But the meat of the matter that you need to know is the stuff that machine learning contributes. So machine learning is sort of like what drives data analytics. Okay. So that's statistical models, statistical method, if you can use them. And they fall roughly into 3 paradigms. One's called supervised, the other one called unsupervised, the other one called reinforcement, which I eliminated from this course. It's not so tied up to data analytics. Okay? And the rest of the course is spent mostly on the project. Okay? So this is going to be a project-based learning class. Now, it was designed as a project-based learning class from the beginning, but given that, we're dealing with COVID and you can't really come in and take exam and stuff like that, right? You have to do everything from home. We are actually going to put a lot more emphasis on project. So this evaluations breakdown, I think, who knows? It might have to be this evaluation thing, okay? So this might have to be something like a project, might have to be beefed up. So we'll see. It's a little bit fluid. I'm still trying to work out what best what best method to do. But basically, you are going to be doing a lot of project based. Some will be individual, and but a lot of it, the main bulk of it, will be group projects. Now, the group projects is going to be graded, right? We're going to grade groups, but you have to contribute to your own groups. So you will have like a widget, well, not a widget, like sort of like a coin, okay? And you have to evaluate your peers in terms of contribution, okay? Not in terms of how much you like them, but in terms of contribution to the project. So, for example, this person contributes a lot to the project, you would give him or her 3 coins, okay? And this person is just about capacity, just about what you expect of a team member. So give him or her 2 coins. And this person doesn't do much, just sort of like hangs around and really makes no contribution, but is a decent human being, I guess. You would give him or her just 1 point or something like that. Okay? So you would also be rating your peers, and I will be rating the quality of your TA, and I will be evaluating quality of your project. Okay? But of course, again, I can't really tell the contribution. So the contribution of the project, that's up to you guys to self-assess. But it's not a competitive, I win, you lose kind of thing. That's never been productive. Okay, this idea where you do well if somebody else does worse, that only works in a menial job, jobs that doesn't require thinking. Jobs like data science, you require collaborative mindset. You want to see other people succeed. They want to see you succeed. You want to help each other learn. You picked up some new technique. You want to share. Somebody else pick up new technique. He or she wants to share. So keep that in mind. Keep that in mind. Okay. So don't be. You have to be nice with your friends. Share as much as you can. Okay. I learned a lot from sharing. I share everything I know. I don't hold back, and people share. Well, presumably, I hope, share with me as much as they can. Okay, and I learn new things every day. Good. So this evaluation thing, we'll see. We'll have to work on that. Here, I give you a list of recommended texts. Okay. Now, you don't have access to this. I do have PDF files of all these texts, but I won't be able to put that on the course bill, right? Because it's not for, say, like a widespread disperse, just for my own use. So what I might do is I will just maybe put some of them in the line group. Okay. Some books are very good, and some books are very good because they are written well. Some books are very good that I put them here because they complement what I teach. A good example would be this book, the Data Science Handbook. It goes into a lot of technical realism, like what you would have to face in the real environment of developing a data science application. Okay, using data science, distributed processing, distributed computing platform, which you don't have here. I will talk about this when I mentioned about big data. There's big data as a concept, and there's big data as a technology. You can't learn big data technology here because there's no equivalent lab that you can play with. You would need something like some kind of Hadoop server or Spark server. It's not something that's learnable within undergraduate environment unless you are a dedicated computer engineering program. So these are all very good. And there's a lot of books on data science that teaches you using Python. Okay. Again, Python is a very easy language to learn. Okay, but it's a bit tedious for my taste. These are some supplementary texts. And this one is free, so you can go to that. And the rest are sort of like, I tend to have private PDF file of all this. So, you can ask me. So there's some, this is wrong actually. For some reason, I archived my research and lecture notes on ResearchGate. But for some weird reason, they keep changing me. Originally, I was Pumjai Nakatsakun, and then Pumjai Nakatsakun 3, and now I'm Nakatsakun 2 or something like that. So I have to update this link. Anyway, there's a lot of things you can learn from YouTube. In spring of this year, I taught emerging technology class where I actually use YouTube as the launching pad for individual topics of technology. Okay, so there's a lot of very good lectures on YouTube that you can go through. I have my own, channels, not like I'm a YouTuber or anything, but sort of like I put my lecture, I archive my lecture there. Data analysis. This guy's a very good. This is really one of the best lecture set on neural network machine learning by this channel called 3 Blue 1 Brown. 2 minutes paper is also very good. I actually paid them a little bit on the Patreon page because I like that page. Okay, so that's
comment from our student. They cannot hear you clearly. Maybe your mic is a little bit echo.
Maybe I can move this thing a bit closer. That's about it. How's that? Better? Better? No, not better.
No.
We have to figure out something. Okay. Between here and next Tuesday, I might try dedicate for. I tried dedicated microphone once. It didn't work so well. I don't know why. Okay. So we'll see. Also, I agree. I think there was a lecture, Introduction to Applied Digital Intelligence, I think 2 Fridays ago. That didn't come out very well either. So, yeah, apology. But anyway, Something else I need to ask. Do you guys have access to this course view thing? Okay. Now, this is a course view from last year. I'm not sure if I should make a separate course view for this year, or I can just keep using this one. And it's got, lecture slide. I may update a little bit, but a lot of them supplementary. So these are all in there. So, coordinate with the admin perhaps. Okay. So again, this is the same course designation, but it says 2020. Okay. So you should be able to have access to that. The course last year is on my YouTube playlist. Okay. So we'll have another one for this year, and that makes sense because the teaching is not identical, but certainly the reading materials are largely not going to change much, improve incrementally. So these are various other bits that teach. Okay, and this is my research archive. So all my research, I basically do financial risk management, machine learning, and sufficiency economy philosophy. Those are the three areas of research that I am mostly engaged in. Okay. So quant and so those are the resources. Okay, so you have now one of the things that was apparent from my last class was I need to slow down my speaking, I guess. So if I get caught up and I tend to speed up as I go along, feel free to raise your hand or to say, excuse me, to speak slowly. Okay, it's okay. Okay, so that's a good setup. So let's start today with today is a very gentle day. Okay, we have, by the way, not just Basai students, but apparently we have students from the engineering department, and that's good. I like that, and that's the sort of spirit I want. Again, I forgot to tell you, back in my undergraduate years, the way the university in the United States was set up was like this: the faculty and the graduate students belong to a department. So you have Department of Physics, you're faculty of Department of Physics, you're graduate students in the Department of Physics. But as an undergraduate, you don't belong to any department. You belong to the whole school. And then you can major in physics, you can major and minor, you can take double major and that sort of thing. So the idea of university as a universe that you can pick and choose your learning, so like this here is the physics department's corner, this is economic department's corner, this is biomedical and all that, and you just sort of like pick and choose like a buffet. I really like that idea. So we are making that open. So presumably Basai students will be able to cross-register and take lecture from other departments, and likewise they can come and learn from us. Okay, and some of the topics. So I kind of like that. I think July is becoming very dynamic, very open. A lot of it is thanks, I guess, to the vision of people who founded this Basai and Professor Warasa, who's very a firm believer of this liberal arts philosophy. Okay, so we have the syllabus. I have to fill in the date, I guess. Okay, let's use a little mind map. By the way, you can go to download Xmind. Xmind download. Okay, xmind.net download, and then you can open this Xmind. You don't have to pay for it, right? So this is my mind map. I use that a lot for my project, for my own thinking, and even for planning curriculum. Okay. Right. So today I'm going to have basically this thing is a bit about statistical methods. Okay, I'm going to talk a little bit about that, but not so much. I'm going to talk a lot more on this. Okay, and this is the introduction. Now, when you have the Mathematica installed, I'm going to move my lecture a lot onto this notebook, Mathematica notebook. Okay, so all this concept. So it's both the text and all kind of stuff will be in there. But today we are going to start here. Okay, talk conceptually. Right. Do we need to take a break? Shall we? Not today. Pause video. Okay. So let we can pause or stop the video. Sorry, I meant stop the recording.